We weren't even going to do a show today. We were waiting to get our information together. We try to get a lot of news compiled before we actually do a new show on national divorce so that we're able to make sure that we're providing you cutting edge news, things that actually recently happened, and things that we're pretty sure you didn't know about. But we had to do an episode today because so many people this week are talking about how America's falling apart and it's the end of the USA. And these are people who do not know each other and they're just saying it on their own podcast independently. So we're going to let you take a look at what they said and see, does that mean it's the end of America? Because so many people this week, for whatever reason, independently of each other, are saying that same conclusion. Like they all just got it this week. We'll show you, take a look for yourself, come up to your own opinion and discuss. And that's the point of this. We want to keep the discussion going as the world's fifth largest economy and talking about our future as possibly being independent from America. We'll get right into that in a second and show you what those voices saying that America's falling apart are actually saying. Let you conclude if that's true or not, or just hyperbole. And we'll get right to that. But first, please check this out. We're going to show you 3 clips. All of them came out this week. One is on the show called Redacted Tonight. Now, that's a show that some people consider a little conspiracy theory. We're not taking a stance on that. But they did talk about a real news issue and then concluded that it's a sign that America's over. What they were talking about was Joe Biden being snubbed by the Mexican president. There was a summit of the Americas. And for the first time in American history recently, the president of Mexico snubbed the president of America. This isn't when Trump's president. This is when Biden's president. The president of Mexico publicly snubbed the president of America. That's never really happened before. Some people concluded that was the end of America. Other people talked about the January 6th commission and how they viewed it as fair or unfair, and the polarization and the attacking and attempt to murder judges, and concluded that that too means that America's falling apart. Finally, people were talking about how, let's see here, Mexico. Yeah, that was it. People were talking about judges attempting to be murdered, Mexico snubbing an American president, and the January 6th trial and the associated polarization of America proving that America no longer functions. So 3 separate people, the Zogby report, from the famous Zogby Polling Institution, well-respected, called many presidential elections. There's also the breaking news or breaking points with Sagar and Jetty and Crystal Ball, which is another news agency. They don't really know each other. And then finally, there's Redacted Tonight, which is another news agency. So Redacted Tonight, Crystal and Sagar and the Zogby report do not know each other and do not mention each other, probably have never done any shows together. And yet all 3 of them, looking at different things, came to the exact same conclusion this week, which is that America's over. I'll show you, and then you can take a look for yourself and come to your own conclusions. Let's get right to it. Well, first we're going to go to Zogby. Here you go. This is the Zogby report. Jeremy Zogby has been a friend of the show. They do polling on presidential polling, and they're very respected for the political analysis and polling. Let's take a look at what Jeremy Zogby has to say when he's talking about the January 6th hearings and the polarization of America.
She said it with words, not with actions. And the evidence is mounted in terms of the false narratives that were pushed, the corruption between GPS and the FBI, and even going back into the White House prior to Donald Trump achieving the White House. But I say all of this, and if you're on the other side, you're saying, Jeremy, that's all Fox News conspiracy theory. But I don't watch Fox News, so I must be mired in some serious conspiracy theory. But to be honest with you, I'm not really moved by that stuff. I'm not interested in theory. I'm interested in evidence. And so if we're going to have justice and we're going to have hearings and we're going to carry forth this stuff, then we have to do it across the board. And I've been watching this for a long time, and I saw George W. Bush, who was flat out a war criminal. I saw Barack Obama, but using the same standards, was flat out a war criminal. I saw Hillary Clinton and all of the stuff that she's engaged in, as well as her husband over their career. And listen, I'm not the jury and I'm not the judge, but I think the evidence is mounted. And it seems to be that there is an institution that is so powerful and so embedded within our society that favors one over the other. And I'm sorry to say this, democracy is dead.
Wow.
So that was the Zogby News report. Now, Zogby's not a Fox News place. He's not a extreme right-wing people. They try to be neutral. Some people might call them conservative because they called a few conservatives winning elections, but they're not trying to be conservative. That's trying to be middle of the road. And what he was saying is that when you look at the January 6th commission, and of course there was some sort of insurrection there, but he was talking about the fairness of the system. Not that there didn't need to be an investigation, but that there should be an investigation. But that we live in a system where we have investigations and they're totally polarized. Is the investigation even run correctly? Will the other side accept it? Are the people who are running the investigation not guilty themselves of crimes? As he talked about, George W. Bush was a war criminal. Total pass on everything he did. Totally cool. And yet Trump does a few things and he's got to get prosecuted for everything. We can't prosecute war criminals? Obama did some war crimes too. We can't go after that either. I'm not saying that what Trump did was fine and okay. It's not. But why can't we get everybody? And why does the prosecution seem to be, we're not going to talk about this and we're only going to talk about that? And he was saying when you look at justice so polarized, it reflects failed Latin American countries. And that's why he concludes America, democracy is dead. Let's go to the next example. Here you go. Take a look at this. So this is redacted tonight, and they're talking about how the president of Mexico, for the first time ever, snubbed the president of America and said they're not going to go. You will recall this is the second major snub that Joe Biden has received. The first one was by the leader of Saudi Arabia, who refused to meet him. That was also a historic first. Now we have our second historic first, where the president of Mexico refuses to meet with the president of America. That's never happened before. Those are two major allies, and they're not meeting with the U.S. president very publicly and snubbing him. Never happened before. Let's take a look.
So we are watching America in decline, I would say, grasping at hypocritical strong-arm tactics to hold on to power. And I think one way we're seeing that is, like, it looks like the bullying, though, this time might not have actually worked. If you look at the Summit of Americas, where we have some unbelievable news that happened just earlier today. We'll put this up here on the screen. This is from, according to, this is
NBC News.
NBC News had this story. Mexican president.
Just saying, I don't want to play politics like this. Either we're going to have a meeting or we're not.
Good for him. I can't remember a time when this has happened before. I mean, normally they're in lockstep. To me, this is a sign of the U.S.'s decline. U.S.'s decline, grasping at straws right now, trying to solidify power in the South China Sea against China, trying to strong arm Russia.
Yes.
Trying to strong arm Venezuela. I mean, this is to me, it's an empire in decline. Seeing this happen and seeing the Mexican president stand up and say, "I'm not coming."
Well, it is interesting to see someone stand up to the mighty United States and say, I'm not going to play this game. It's kind of dirty and I don't want anything to do with it.
So they were talking about the historicness of the fact that the Mexican president rebuffed the American president. And I would add that onto the fact that the Saudi leader rebuffed the American president. And they were saying that's never happened before. And in their opinion, that's a conclusion of American decline, because that wouldn't happen to the USA before. Let's show you the final example. Here we go.
And the governor of Michigan and other people within the judiciary. The reason I bring it up is, it's a really bad sign in a society when you have judges being threatened or judges being murdered, when you have, increasing political violence and instability. And so I really just sort of look at these events as part of that sign and trend of a complete unraveling of American society. And
Well, there you have it. I know it's not positive, but I wanted you to see something that this week we had 3 separate stations who cover 3 types of news, who do not communicate with each other, who are looking at 3 different issues. And they all came to the same conclusion. These are signs of the collapse of America. You cannot have violence against judges. You cannot have premier allies over the last century snubbing you. You cannot have unfair justice systems that half the country is going to ignore the rulings of and have a functional country. Not possible. So I wanted you to see it from the horse's mouth, as they say. That's 3 people. Think for yourself. Take a look at the information. As always, we show you the sources. You can track it on your own and continue to think for yourself and question it. We'll see you soon. Thank you.